It's hard to know what it's really like in a country until you actually live there. You can do all of the research you can think, but there are certain things you just never know until you live there. I moved to Mexico in 2017, and there are quite a few things that if someone had told me beforehand, it would have made my adjustment to the country and to living there that much easier. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to be for you the person I did not have, and I'm going to share my list of things that nobody tells you about living in Mexico. But before we do that, I want to introduce myself, especially to the people who are new. Welcome to my channel. My name is Adelia Borchade. Most people know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. On this channel, we talk about anything that fits into the intersection of travel and finances. So that includes how to move abroad, how to fund a life abroad, as well as how to get your money right to do whatever it is your heart desires. If those are topics of interest to you, please go ahead, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you'll know the next time I post a video or I go live. These things are things that nobody tells you about living in Mexico. And they're listed in no particular order. So number one on this list, Tex-Mex food is not the same as Mexican food. And I know you're thinking, well, duh. Well, no, not duh, because there are a lot of people. I see this often in different Facebook groups for people who are considering moving to Mexico, or travel groups where people talk about, oh, I don't like Mexican food, blah, blah, blah. And the things that they don't like are not actually things that are popular in Mexican cuisine. They are things that are part of Tex-Mex. I'm originally from Texas, and at least in my experience, we would talk about going to the Mexican restaurant. We didn't say, oh, I'm going to get Tex-Mex tonight. So definitely in my head, I thought what I had been seeing in Texas as Mexican food was the same thing that I would find here in Mexico. And that did not turn out to be the case. So when I first arrived, it made ordering food really difficult because there were lots of names of dishes that I was not familiar with. The things that I thought I knew about the food were not true. Speaking of food, something else nobody tells you about Mexico is Mexican butter is trash. It's straight trash. I'm not even sure it's wholly butter. I've heard people talk about like it tastes like plastic. It doesn't melt properly. There are literally two brands of butter. Gloria and Lurpak. Those, if you're not buying imported butter when you live in Mexico, those are the only two brands of butter you should buy. Trust me on this. You buy those other ones, you are going to be sorely disappointed. No one told me, and all of the research I did before coming to Mexico, no one told me that the people who bag groceries in the grocery stores do not get paid for that work. And it is your responsibility as the client to tip them. They work solely on tips. I first saw these people and thought, oh, how sweet. They're reserving these jobs specifically for senior citizens. I had no idea I was supposed to be tipping them for bagging my groceries, because in none of the countries I'd lived in before was that expected, or I just had to bag my own groceries. So, that would have made my adjustment a whole lot easier had I known that before I came. On this channel, we've talked about kitchens in Mexico, and that it is not a given that a kitchen will be included in an apartment, or two, that the kitchen will have cabinets. I feel like, I don't know, that one, it depends on where you're doing your research. You might hear that, but what nobody told me was that I don't think there are any ovens in Mexico that have electric ignitions. In both of the apartments I have lived in, I'm thinking about all of the Airbnbs I've stayed in Mexico, I have had to light the oven. Like, there is gas in the oven, but there is no auto ignition. It doesn't light on its own. You've got to light it. Needless to say, I didn't know this when I first moved here, so I did not have the proper things you need to try and light an oven, and I tried to light it with rolled up newspaper lit from the stove top. That was not a good move. I almost burnt the place down. It's also fairly common for a cooktop not to have electric ignition. It could go either way on that. Both of my apartments have had that for the cooktop, but not for the oven. So that is something to know if you intend to bake or what have you. Oh, speaking of that, I'd also point out it is rare for the oven to have temperatures on the dial. So, you escape death and danger and you actually get the oven lit without burning down the apartment. Well, what's the temperature? Because there is no temperature dial, no temperature indicator on the oven itself. I just used to kind of guess what the temperature, like I'd put my hand in, feel it, and be like, that feels like 350 degrees. Of course, talking to my friend that's a chef, she's like, duh, Adelia, you need a oven thermometer. I have never used an oven thermometer in my life, y'all, so I had no clue. Staying with our kitchen theme a little bit longer, just because your apartment has hot water, like you have a hot water heater, you have a boiler, you can take hot showers, does not mean you will have hot water in every sink or that your washer will be connected to the hot water. It is not uncommon for that to be the case. So I guess when you talk to locals, they don't think to mention it to foreigners. I can think about my apartment right now. I've got hot water in the kitchen. I have hot water in one bathroom. But in my secondary bathroom in the sink, there is no hot water. Like, it's nothing. It's very common for whoever is connecting things to be like, they don't need hot water in there. So, it's one of those things. If you know about this ahead of time, it can make the adjustment a little better. Y'all know that I love the weather in Mexico City because it does not get super hot. It also does not get super cold. But because of that, it means that heat is not really a thing. We do not have HVAC systems. There is no heater to turn on. What do people do to stay warm? They get a blanket, they get a girlfriend, they get a boyfriend, that sort of thing. But that's not really what was on my list as something people didn't tell me. It's that because of what building materials are used in Mexico, often walls are concrete, they're cinder blocks, something like that. It is often colder inside of your apartment than it will be outside, even in the depth of winter. So when it is really, really cold and you're in your apartment and you're in your thermals and your hiking socks and your blanket, it might just be better to go out and sit in the sun because it'll be warmer, most likely, than your apartment. Nobody told me that. I was blindsided and incredibly uncomfortable because, had I realized how cold it does get inside, I could have made some preparations or, bought an extra blanket or what have you. I got caught slipping. I've said on this channel more than once that the only thing consistent in Mexico is inconsistency. And one example of that are opening and closing times for restaurants, for stores, you name it. They are suggestions. They're subject to interpretation. It can say this place is supposed to open at 9 a.m. Odds are it won't. What time will they open? When somebody shows up. When is that going to be? Who knows? So that's definitely something I think you should know if you're thinking about living in Mexico. If you're someone where things must actually, like everything has to be on a timetable, what they printed on the website has to be accurate, you're going to struggle in Mexico. No one told me this. I didn't even know this was a thing. If you move to Mexico, be prepared for the chicken to be yellow. I cannot get an answer I am satisfied with about why the chicken is yellow. The common word on the street is it's about what they feed the chickens. Supposedly, they feed them marigold, simple suche, the flour that you see a lot during Day of the Dead. There's two problems with that theory. One, simple suches do not bloom year round. So, but we got yellow chickens year round. So that doesn't add up. And two, with industrial farming and industrial poultry production, the volume of flours that would be needed in order to feed the chickens for them to come out yellow does not add up. So I don't know why. I don't know why the chicken is yellow in Mexico, but it is. And if you don't know that, it can be very startling when you're at the market and you're thinking, oh, this chicken is bad. It's been here too long. No, it's just yellow, and that's what it looks like. There is always lots of discussion about not drinking the tap water here in Mexico. But what no one tells you is why you can't drink the tap water. It's not in the vast majority of municipalities in Mexico. The water itself is clean, it's treated, it is safe to drink. The problem is with how water enters homes and apartments and houses and buildings. Unlike in the US, where when you turn on the tap, that water is being pumped into your house from the water system. Here, water is often stored in tanks, and those tanks may not be as clean, as sanitary as necessary. You may live in an area where the pipes have been compromised. And so that's primarily the reason why you should not drink the water, is because nobody can guarantee the safety after it has left the water authority, whether that be by truck or what have you. No one can guarantee the safety of the pipes in the storage that have transported that water. People struggle speaking Spanish in Mexico because and the thing that nobody really tells you is that a lot of words here in Mexico are not actually Spanish. They are derived from Nahuatl or one of the other indigenous languages. So for instance, you use Google Translate or Duolingo and you look up peanut butter. It'll tell you that mani is the word for peanut. Nobody uses that word hardly in Mexico. In Mexico, it's a cacahuate, which is derived from a Nahuatl word. So if you're struggling with your Spanish in Mexico, and you're like, these letters shouldn't be in these Spanish words, or these words just are not being pronounced correctly, it's probably because it's not actually a Spanish word. A lot of the words in Mexico have an indigenous origin, which can trip people up when they're first learning Spanish. So there's only one more thing on my list, and it is specific to Mexico City. We know that Mexico City, first of all, we know that Mexico has multiple tectonic plate borders, both on both sides of the country. And we know that Mexico City has a history of seismic activity. But what nobody tells you is that you can kind of always feel the city shaking. Like, it doesn't have to be an earthquake, and you can be in a building and you'll feel it, or you'll start to see things move, and it's like, is this an earthquake? Is it not? Nobody really prepared me for that. So the first couple of times it sort of freaked me out a little bit. But that's just the norm. That's just the norm. So this was a very short list. These are things nobody tells you about Mexico, but these are good things to know to help you adjust, help you acclimate to the country. If you are planning a move abroad, be sure to grab my move abroad checklist, which is linked in the description. If you need personal help planning a move abroad, whether to Mexico or some other country, you can book a one-on-one call with me. There's a link for that in the description as well, or you can go directly to my website, pickygirltravelstheworld.com, or bit.ly/askadelia. Thank you for watching.